Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Now it is time to introduce our main speaker for tonight, Stevie.
Stevie Alcoholic. I don't need that. I'm in New York, you can hear me back there. I got 19 years sober. Is this echoing? I got 19 years sober, so you might be thinking, if you're new, why does this guy still come to AA meetings? If he ain't drank in 19 years, the problem ain't drinking, the problem is the ism, right? You can take alcohol out of alcoholism, you still got the ism. And for me, that's I seek misery. See, I love self-sabotage. I totally fuck myself up. You could give me shit, I will burn it to the ground, right? This is my problem. Now, I came to AA mostly because I wanted to stop going to jail, right? What I learned here is I learned how to be a gentleman. And when I say I learned how to be a gentleman, it's two words. I learned how to be a gentle man. Now, I wasn't always so gentle, right? I used to be a real asshole, right? I used to be like so angry. Like I was always looking for somebody to step on my shoe, right? You know how like they say the glass is either half empty or half full? Like my glass was half empty and I wanted to find the motherfucker responsible. Now it's no way to go through life, you know? It's like I remember my sponsor saying years later, you know what, you could be happy or you could be angry, but it's hard to be both at the same time. And I'd rather be happy, you know, I'd rather enjoy my life, you know, I'd rather laugh, I'd rather have a good time. This is an example of what an asshole I was. I'm waiting for the subway. I'm going to whatever shit job I had in New York at the time, and I'm there and I'm miserable and the subway's coming and it's crowded and the doors are gonna open so people are shoving, right? So this guy like shoves into me as the doors are coming to open, and I can't let that go. If someone shoves into me, I gotta, you know, chuck an elbow and let him know. So I chuck an elbow and I hear the guy kind of go like, ooh. Like I'm the asshole. So I turn to look to see if maybe he'd like to elaborate. And that's when I see the sunglasses and the cane. I wish I was blind. So I chucked an elbow into a blind man. And I was so self-absorbed and so mortified, I just like walked off. I just like ran to another car. Like I couldn't even say I was sorry. And I think it's very indicative of life. And that is, we get so self-absorbed and so self-centered that we think people are like shoving into us, when the truth is, everyone's just trying to get where they're going. And the people who bump into us don't even necessarily need to. And guess what? Some of the people bumping into you might have a much harder time than you. Right? So I had to learn this shit here. I didn't know what spirituality was. I remember being a kid and my favorite show was a show called Kung Fu, right? Most of you are too young to remember this show, but it was basically like this guy he was a Shaolin monk, and he was like half Chinese, half American, and he'd wandered the Old West, and I don't know, he was looking for something, but you know, he was an expert at martial arts. But he was a monk, so he was spiritual. So like rednecks would fuck with him, they'd like knock his hat off and kick his flute. He would just be like, you know, pick up his flute and his hat and walk off. And I would just get so angry. I'd be like, why doesn't he kick the shit out of him? He knows Kung Fu. Like I didn't understand. Like I wanted to learn Kung Fu so I could beat the shit out of everybody. You know, I wanted to eliminate all the assholes in the world. And I was 6. So what I learned here is that the only way to reduce the number of assholes in the world is not be one. You know, because guess what? People much smarter and more spiritual than me have gotten on pulpits and told people, you know, how you can change the world. And, you know, they've been crucified and assassinated throughout the years. You know, so all I can say is this. I just have to work on me being a better guy. Like I think it was Gandhi or somebody said, you know, be the change you want to see in the world. Right? So this is a path of me, despite not drinking for nearly 20 years, just trying to be a better guy. I was a scared kid. Everything scared me. When I was a little boy, I was afraid of the dark. I was afraid of spiders. I was afraid of heights. I was afraid of getting beat up. And you'd like to think you could go to your parents and they would reassure you and tell you it's going to be okay. Mine did not. You know, it's like there was no one telling me it's going to be okay. Like I remember, I'd be this happy kid and I'd run home and I'd be like, Mommy, we went to the birthday party and we did the hokey pokey where you put your left arm in. And she'd be like, yeah, you know, your Uncle Fred lost his arm in the war, so he can't play that. I mean, I know all our moms are fucked up, but my mom was fucked up. Because like this one, I didn't even have an Uncle Fred. She would just say this shit to like Fred. Like this one time, like we would drive through like from my shitty neighborhood to an even shittier neighborhood on the school bus, and the kids would throw rocks, and sometimes the windows would break, and I'd be like, Mommy, they throw rocks at the school bus, and I'm afraid. And she'd be like, yeah, that's how, you know, your Uncle Jack got blinded. I swear to God, she would make these things up. So, despite all these weird things, like despite how scared I was, I became an expert faker, right? I was really good at making you think that I wasn't scared. I was really good at just making it through the day, like, no, everything's fine, even though the secret was, shit's not gonna be okay. I was a popular kid, you know, I was smart. I mean, God bless my parents, they were kind of abusive, but they taught me how to read like way ahead of time. Like I went into kindergarten, I knew how to read, you know. I was charming and clever, the other kids thought I was kind of cool. I remember, I don't know if anyone remembers this, when I was a kid we had the Sears wish book, right? They would send it out in like the fall, and it was like a catalog of like toys. And I remember thinking like, pointing at toys, like if I could have that, right? If I could have the $6 Million Man, if I could get the radio-controlled Trans Am, then everything would be okay. Like I remember thinking at a young age, like, if I just had something outside me, that would make it okay, right? And this pattern would repeat later in my life. But those toys didn't make me more okay. When I got to like junior high, like I got a little more anxious and nervous, like that fear started to show. And all of a sudden I couldn't just be like the kid who was more, the kid who was smarter than everyone else. Because I was this scared 13-year-old kid who had the same pair of pants on every day because we were poor. My old man was a school teacher. I mean, God bless him. By the time my dad was 25, he had 3 kids, a mortgage, and he was working as a school teacher, you know. When I was 25, I was like in and out of jail, you know, so God bless him. But when I got to high school, I discovered drinking. Now, here's the wonderful thing about drinking. If you're riddled with fear and self-doubt and you're unsure of yourself, drinking numbs your feelings. So when you drink, you feel great. Like when I started drinking in 9th grade, that was awesome. All of a sudden I started to feel like, man, I could bullshit my way through things again. All of a sudden I started going to the gym and I started working out, and I got an after school job so I could buy like new clothes, and I got a girlfriend, and drinking really worked in high school. You know, I got in trouble, but nothing serious, you know. It really solved my problems. When I reached, or I should say when I got thrown out of high school, it kind of, well, it worked for a little while. So I got thrown out of high school. It wasn't funny anymore. which is to say, if you're 17 years old and you're getting into drunken fistfights in parking lots, it's like halfway cool. If you're 22 and you're getting into drunken fistfights in parking lots, you're a fucking loser. You know what I mean? I remember one of the few smart things my old man said to me. He picked me up from jail, you know, and I had black eye out to here, and he says to me, "Why is it I'm 43, I've never had a fight in my life? You're 23 and you find a fight every single weekend." And I had no answer. So all through from like 20 to like 25, it was just a disaster of these blackouts where I would come out of a blackout on my motorcycle with both needles pinned. Like no idea where I was, just I think I'm in New Jersey or something. I came out of blackouts in the middle of like bar fights, fighting 3 guys. Like, who are these people? I mean, it was like that show, Quantum Leap. I would just appear. And I was a little envious. I love Carly's story. I was like, I would never have 25 people show up in an intervention saying, you know, we're here to help. Because no one gave a shit, really. At that point, no one really cared. I remember I had like one sobering voice. I was up in front of a judge, and I had violated my probation for like the 8th time, and I was going to go to jail, and I remembered him saying, like, he looks down at my record, and he looks at me, and he goes, "How long do you think you're going to live?" And he wasn't saying it like to admonish me or be moralistic. I think he was just curious, because he had seen so many losers like me just come through the system. You know, because it's like I had always been trying to game this guy. I mean, part of my probation was we had to go to AA, but we also went to some like county program. Anyways, we knew if you told the judge you're going to AA, they'd go easy on you, right? So like the guy before me, like he violated probation, and the judge is like, "Oh, so let me see, you've been going to AA?" And the guy in front of me goes, "Oh, yeah." And the judge goes, "What step are you on?" And I swear this guy goes, "Step?" That judge got so pissed. He's like, 1 year county jail, right? So they haul him off, and I'm next. I'm like, thank God I was half smart. I had a meeting directory in my back pocket, and I pull it out, and it had steps written on it. I'm like, 1, wait a minute, we're about over at 2, can you believe? I was like, "Judge, I'm on step 2, can you believe it?" Like this. I was like, thank fucking Jesus. Yeah, I don't think anybody plans when they're younger, like someday I want to grow up and be awake for days at a time, crawling around on the carpet, looking for a little speck of something to pick it up and put it in my gums. But that's where I was. That's where like I ended up, you know. Coke was not glamorous. You know what, let me skip ahead to getting sober. A geographic worked for me. A geographic worked for me because I changed my lifestyle and I became willing, right? I moved to Los Angeles, got the fuck out of New York, I came here and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. So I came to LA and I went to an AA meeting right away, right? Now this was a program of attraction. I was 26 years old. I came here and all you people were like young and good looking, and there was like meetings at 11 o'clock at night and everyone was hanging out afterwards. I was like, this is awesome. You know, it's like, I envy people who are young and newly sober. Because you know what, that first year, that was great. That was a lot of fun. And I hope you young people who are here for the first time in your first year are enjoying it. Enjoy the fuck out of it. You know, I hope you all go out and hang out at the coffee shops and have barbecues and fuck each other. Seriously. Because man, it was off the hook. I mean, I don't know if it's different now. We didn't have cell phones and nothing back then. What am I even talking about? Okay, so I come to AA, and I remember telling my first sponsor, I was like, hey man, I want to get sober, I don't want to go to jail anymore, I don't want to like, you know, pass out in a public place or piss my pants, because that's embarrassing, so I really, really want to get sober, just I can't do this God thing, right? Because see, I was raised Catholic, and no disrespect to practicing Catholics, this is my experience. The Catholic God was a very mean, punishing God, as my understanding. You know, like my grandma had that painting of like Jesus holding his robe open, and you could see his heart, it had like thorns around it. Like, that scared me. So that dogma, as far as I remember it, was like you were born into sin, God was waiting for you to fuck up, and he was going to catch you, and then you were going to go to hell. So why should I trust that guy? And the truth was, I didn't have any experience in my life where like God was handling shit. You know, from the way I understood it, life was brutal and you were going to suffer, and good luck, buddy. So I just didn't like the idea of God or even higher power. So I remember my sponsor at the time, he said, you have to fire your old God. And I'm like, okay. So I take a pen and paper, I'm like, dear ex-God, you were never there for me anyway. You were just a boogeyman invented by some other guy in Bible times. My mom and dad used to say you would punish me. I never trusted you. Therefore, it's time that I seek new representation. I mail this letter, right? I mail this letter. And I have to admit, like, that indoctrination, that Catholic, like, guilt, like, had me a little nervous writing this, right? I write that letter, I mail it off, and then he says, okay, you have to welcome a new God into your life. So now I get, like, all in my head, right? I'm like, a new God? Well, I mean, I'm part German, I pray to Odin, or, I mean, what new God? I'm like, going to the library, studying mythology, and, you know, my sponsor at the time, he's like, no, dummy, just let's make believe, all right? Let's just act as if. What type of God would you feel comfortable praying to? I was like, I don't know, God who wants me to treat myself and others with love and respect. He's like, okay, done. That's your God. And to this day, the God that I pray to is I act as if, right? Because I don't believe there's a guy up there with a white beard looking down hearing this. I don't think that there's a heaven, in my opinion. I don't believe there's a heaven that when I die, I go to pearly gates. I think it's like when a plant dies, that's the end. But I act as if, right? It's going to get even more spiritual. Stick with me. I feel like if I turn my will and my life over to a God that wants me to treat myself and others with love and respect, period, I'm always going to make the right decision, right? Because I know Stevie's decision is always selfish and shitty, right? Like, Stevie's will is this. That's my parking spot, motherfucker, right? God's will is, hey, you know what? You could have that parking spot. And I go throughout my day feeling much better about myself. Because, you know, at the end of the day, I just want to, like, put my head on the pillow and feel like I had a good day. If there's a heaven, they'll probably let me in, you know? But more importantly, while I'm here, for the most part, I'm a good guy. These steps are really important, and here's the thing. When I first came here, I thought the steps were a punishment, right? That's the way I viewed everything. It's like, you've been bad. You've been doing all those drugs and all that drinking, so here's your punishment. Now, here's the thing. It's not punishment, okay? We're filled with doubt and self-hatred and self-sabotage. So what we would do is we would drink to numb those feelings. All right, so we're going to stop drinking. We can't numb those feelings. We need tools to address them, right? We need tools to address those feelings, and these things are brilliant because they actually work. We actually figure out all the shit that's bothering us. So when we say, you got to do a 4-step, it's not, you've been a bad boy, go to your room and clean your room. We're saying, hey man, your room is a mess. It's gross. It's just dirty and smelly and dusty and cluttered and it's filled with junk. So let's do this, right? And we'll help you. Let's go in your room and let's open up the windows, right? Let's get some sunshine in there. Let's throw out some of the trash. Let's get rid of that old bullshit that's just cluttering the place. So you can be comfortable in your room, right? And then we say, let's figure out some of the things that are really bothering you. Because that word resentment, right? It's like the prefix is re over and over, and sentiment is Latin for like to feel shit. So it means to feel shit over and over again. Because I thought a resentment was, I'm so angry about whatever. No, a resentment, by definition, is something that you just keep thinking about and thinking about and thinking about. And we want to let go of that shit. You know, we want to let go of that shit. So the 4-step is really important. You don't have to overdo it, right? Don't be one of those guys that fills up 5 notebooks. Because anyone reading a 4-step over 2 hours is just repeating himself. Because it all just comes down to, what are you afraid of? And why you're not turning it over. Like my sponsor had me add on an extra column. What would God want me to do? Right? And why are you not doing it? So this way, every single thing bothering me, I realized, oh, God wants me to let that go. And when I ask myself, why am I not letting go of it? It's because I just want to feel miserable. So here's God's will, let it go. Stevie's will, no, I just want to be awake at night thinking about this and beat myself up. Right? Don't do that to yourself. I remember, like most people getting sober, I didn't feel I could help people right away, right? Like, maybe you've got 40 days, or maybe you have 90 days, or you have 6 months, and people are saying, put your hand out to newcomers. And you're like, what do I got to offer? I mean, I got 90 days. What do I know? Alcoholics, we always beat ourselves up. No matter what we do, we feel like we're not good enough, right? And here's the truth. When I was newly sober, if some guy walked over to me and he said, hey man, I've got 19 years. Let me tell you something. I would be like, you know what? If you have 19 years, you didn't drink like me. I couldn't even fathom it, right? I couldn't go a week without getting drunk. If someone who had 19 years, they were just alien to me. But if someone came up to me and they're like, man, I got 40 days, I'd be like, really? How did you do that? Seriously. If you got 40 days, you could probably be of better service to a newcomer than I could. Try it, you will feel great, right? Here's the comedy of it. I remember people telling me, you should give your number to newcomers. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want a bunch of people calling me, because, I got like shit going on. I don't want my pager, we had pagers. I don't want my pager going off all the time. So finally I break down and start giving out my number to newcomers. None of them call me, right? Not a single motherfucker calls me. Like then I get a resentment, like why are they not calling me? Why are they not calling me? And then someone said to me, well, genius, you could get their number and call them, right? I had to be told this. So one of the best commitments I've learned in this program is I walk up to a new guy and I go, hey man, give me your number. I'm going to call you tomorrow. Maybe we'll have nothing to say, right? I'll say what's up, you'll say what's up, and that'll be it. But the important thing is that we talk on the phone, all right? Let's just break that ice. So this way, a couple days from now, if you want to drink, or if next week you want to smack your girlfriend, or the week after that you want to punch your boss, you won't be shy to call me, because we've already talked on the phone. Because see, we're self-hating alcoholics. We're like too afraid to call someone that said, here's my number, call me. We're like, yeah, that guy doesn't really want to call. Let me tell you something. Alcoholics love to give their opinion. They will be so excited that you called, right? Don't be shy to call them. And if you've been here for any length of time, give your number to other people, right? Because I have made so many friends, right? I have gotten so many sponsees by doing that, and more importantly, I feel good about myself, right? Because this is my disease, is self-hatred. I had a commitment where I was the coffee cleanup guy, and same thing, I thought it was punishment, Okay, you've been a bad boy, you want to get sober, your punishment is clean the coffee mugs. So I'd clean the coffee mugs, cleaning coffee mugs. After a couple of weeks, I'd come into the meeting and I'd see people drinking coffee, and I'd be like, that's right. I clean those cups. Like I felt like a part of something. I remember I showed up one time and someone else was cleaning the coffee mugs. I'm like, yo, that's my shit. Get away from my coffee mugs. I was really blessed in that when I worked these steps, I learned that I could make amends, and there were certain people like I feel like didn't deserve amends, right? Like I obviously had, some mommy issues. Mom was very brutal and she was kind of shitty to me, so what amends do I owe this lady, right? Other than birthing me, all she did was shame me and tell me I was no good and I wasn't good enough, blah, blah, blah. But I had to become willing to make amends to my mom, right? I was willing to make the amends, right? She calls me one day, which is rare because we don't talk a lot, and she doesn't really express her feelings, but she calls one day out of the blue and says, you think I was a bad mother. And I wanted to say, well, yeah, you were a fucking psychotic. But I didn't. I said, well, Ma, if I ever said something like that when I was drunk, I'm sorry. You know, or if I ever gave you any reason to think that, I apologize. Let's just look at the facts, Mom. I'm living in California. I have a really cool job, amazing friends. I live in this cool little spot. Like, my life is amazing. So, apparently you're a great mom, because look how I ended up. So, thanks, Mom. And now, you'd like to think my mom was like, well, you know, it wasn't easy or whatever, or say something like her part. No. It was just basically like, yeah, I knew you were a complete idiot, but that said, I am a pretty good mom. You know, I'm like, God bless her. You know, she did the best she could. I think that these days I really enjoy not having that fear or anxiety, you know? Because see, I would get in trouble a lot, right? I would get in trouble a lot. Like, I want to say I had a driver's license when I was 16 and lost it when I was 17 and just could never drive ever again. When I moved out here and I got pulled over in sobriety, at first I got kind of nervous, and then I was like, wait a minute. Like, the cop comes to my window, I'm like, you want to see my license and registration? Because I got them. Like, I was legal, I was allowed to drive. And the cop gives me a speeding ticket, and I was like, thank you. And he was like, you don't mean that. I go, no, really, thank you. Because I was going too fast, and you know, you're here to make sure that people are getting to where they're going safely. And because you gave me this ticket, next time I drive on this road, I won't go so fast. So thank you. That cop just backed away real slow. I wanted to tell him, you know what, I have a God in my life and men that I love. I don't know that I believe in karma, like there's a God up there saying, hey, Stevie volunteered and helped those kids, so I'm going to give him a pretty girlfriend or things like that. I believe in karma in the sense that if I'm doing good things, right, if I feel good about myself, it translates into the rest of my life. Like when I show up to do a job and I tell people, yeah, I'll do a good job. Yes, I will work hard for you. They know it's not bullshit, you know? Or if I meet a nice girl and I say, hey, we should hang out sometime, they go, this seems like a legitimately sincere guy. That didn't used to be the case, you know? When you're out there doing shitty, sneaky things, people can tell. We'd like to think we were fooling people, but we weren't, you know? So I find that for the most part, I surround myself with good people. I'm very blessed, you know? You get back what you put out there. I still, to this day, have to wrestle with letting go of my will and praying for God's will, right? It's another reason I still come here. Because God wants me to be happy, treat myself with others in love and respect. With love and respect, I will be awake at night kicking my own ass still. Like, I'm an alcoholic, that's what I do. Shit'll be fine, and out of nowhere I'll be like, I can't believe I lost that fist fight in 7th grade. And I'll obsess on it, right? God doesn't want me awake thinking about myself. It's not helping anyone, right? It's not helping anybody. Not only has my life improved, but I get to be part of other people's lives, right? Like, never even mind like how awesome my life has become. I get to witness other people's lives change, right? I get to be part of that. You know, it's funny, like people like buy a book to read a happy story or go to the movies or watch a TV show. We get to actually live these stories. We get to be characters in these stories. You know, I've seen people come in here just like beat the fuck down and just like broke in every way. And they get their families back. You know, I see people who weren't allowed to see their kids, you know, like emailing me photos. This is me and my son in Hawaii. You know, hey, I wanted to thank you for that time you stopped and talked to me. I mean, like, I get teary-eyed when I think of all the lives we've seen change. I'll finish with my spiritual awakening. I had a spiritual awakening of the white light variety, which is saying something for a guy who, didn't believe in God. And still, I don't, but you'll see what I mean in a second. Probably at about 2.5 years sober, I had a real crisis of faith, right? Because, see, here was the problem. I was sober, and I had commitments. I was sober, and I, hadn't been arrested, and, I was trying to pursue some things, and I had a shitty little car, and I had a rented room, but I didn't have the stuff, see, right? Because, see, it was holiday time, and I was lonely, and nothing makes me sadder and more lonely than fucking Christmas music, right? Like somebody that's just like, it's the happiest time of the year. No, not for me, actually. It's like, I just feel like I'm reminded that everyone else has a happy family except me, which I know is ridiculous. It's selfish and self-centered. But Christmas time makes me miserable. At 2.5 years sober, it's Christmas time, and I didn't have the girl, I didn't have the career, I had a shitty car in a rented room, and I was angry. And I remember walking home from the coffee shop, and I saw, it was like a week before Christmas, so maybe it was like a Hanukkah present, or this kid got her Christmas gift early, but it was a little girl on a bicycle, right? And it was brand new with the training wheels, and the basket, and the horn, and the tassels. And this mom is teaching the little kid how to ride the bicycle. And they were just so happy, right? And the little girl was so happy, she wasn't thinking about anything else. And I just remember thinking, like, I have nothing like that in my life. I got nobody and I got nothing. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to go to that AA meeting tonight, and I'm going to tell them, you know what, I'm done. Fuck this bullshit. So I go to the AA meeting, and the speaker speaks. It's time for sharing. I got my hand up, right? They're not calling on me. They're not calling on me. They're not calling on me, right? Finally, it's like, okay, burning desires, we got time for one more. I'm like, and then they pick the girl next to me. I'm like, this better be fucking good. So the woman next to me, she says, I have 6 months clean and sober, and, I just wanted to say I'm very happy to be off drugs and not drinking, but it's been tough. I have 2 little kids at home, and I had to tell them, listen, Mommy just started working again because she didn't have a job for a long time, and Mommy had to pay the rent, so there's not going to be any Santa Claus this year. And then she says that her little girl says to her, Mommy, I'm so happy you're not doing drugs or drinking. That's the only Christmas present I want. I get emotional all these years later because it was a spiritual shift in the way I looked at the world. Because suddenly, it wasn't about me, right? I go up to her after the meeting and I say, can I buy gifts for your kids? And she said, no, I wasn't looking for a handout. I just wanted to express my gratitude. And I go, I know, but would you please let me do this? Now, I was pretty broke myself. I was down to my last $100, but I'm an alcoholic, so let's spend it. Right? So, she tells me how old her daughter is and how old the son is, and I go to this toy store, and I bought a Barbie with rollerblades, and a Spider-Man, and a ball, and a car, and I walked out of that toy store with a bag of toys over my shoulder. See, I was Santa Claus. And I was relieved in that moment of any self-hatred, any self-doubt. That voice that said, you're no good, you're a piece of shit, it just went quiet. I was crystal clear. I was okay with who I was in the world. I was okay with everything. I didn't need to get high. I didn't need to drink. It was the greatest feeling in the world. And I chase that high now, right? That's where I get my love, right? By helping other people. And I say this to you because You don't know when it's gonna happen. It took me 2.5 years. But please keep coming back, because I promise you, you will have an experience like that, and everything will be okay. Anyways, that's all I got.
Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.